Good afternoon and welcome to our webinar, How to Simplify Cybersecurity. My name is Gurdip Sohal. I'm the Sales Director at Covenco Recovery Services, and I'll be your host for this afternoon's session. I'll be joined by my colleague, Anthony Roberts. Anthony, could you go to the next slide for me, please?
Yep.
Excellent. There you go. So yeah, I'll be joined by Anthony Roberts. He's the UK Sales Engineering Manager at Cynet, and essentially we'll be discussing how you can simplify your cybersecurity strategy, looking at the key components to a more simplified cybersecurity strategy, how you can stay ahead of the attackers, how you can leverage automation to improve your threat protection, and also how you can consolidate the different types of requirements you have in your overall strategy into one succinct solution. Before we do that, I would just like to cover off some housekeeping points. We'll be running a poll towards the end of this session once Anthony's presentation is complete. That will be followed by a Q&A session. So please ask questions because it makes it all that more interesting. You can do so by going into your Zoom taskbar to the Q&A piece and asking your questions from there, but we will address those at the end of the session. Before I hand over to Anthony, I would like to sort of introduce to you Covenco for those people on the webinar who aren't familiar with who we are. So Covenco Recovery Services, we are a specialist in the provision of data protection, availability, security, and infrastructure support services. So things like backup services, backup as a service, disaster recovery solutions, that be it cloud-based recovery, be it traditional recovery, security solutions of a wide range, working with different vendors to help provide a strategic approach to your overall protection as a business. So not only looking at the back-end data protection in terms of backups and DR recoveries, but also looking at the front-end aspect of that and stopping those bad things from happening. Unfortunately, with the way that things are in this world, when those bad things happen, they do come through, and that's where our DR and backup solution skills, I guess, are come to the forefront and help our customers recover from those scenarios. We were formed about 20 years ago and are part of the Covenco group of companies, which also consists of Covenco UK Limited, a very large international hardware brokerage business, and Covenco Applied Technologies, which is essentially a value-added reseller, working with all the large technology vendors out there to provide solutions to their customers. Recovery Services serves over 250 customers now, and those customers spread or range in terms of the vertical sectors that we support. So there's lots of public sector customers, people like school, entities like schools, colleges, government agencies, through to the private sector, so manufacturing, retail, insurance, you name it, banking, finance. We work with a range of different industry sectors. We are headquartered out of Banbury in Oxfordshire, and are accredited as a business as an ISO 27001 for information security management, along with a quality standard of ISO 9001. And really one of our key objectives as a business is to provide value to our customers and continue to drive value to our customers. And this is where our relationship with Cynet has really come to the fore. You know, we looked at Cynet and we looked at their proposition, and we felt that it could deliver value to our customers. And that's really the sort of the premise of this presentation today, is that we hope that value can come across through today's session. So I think that's enough about Covenco for now, but I'd like to hand over to Anthony. Anthony, if you could.
Excellent. Thank you, Gurdip. Appreciate that. And yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Really happy to be here delivering this webinar. So just a quick introduction from me. I've been in IT for around 20 years now, straight out of school into IT. As Gerdit mentioned, I'm the UK sales engineering manager at Cynet, although I'm still doing pre-sales, post-sales, education. Last 17 years within IT, I've worked across security. I come from mainly across various different vendors, technology vendors. Did also work in the channel as a consultant as well, and a number of roles across those different vendors and channel positions, from pre-sales, post-sales, training, education, and solution design as well. So, that's me. As it says here, I'm really passionate about security. I enjoy talking to customers still, and I want to understand what the business and technical challenges are around cyber attacks. It's one of the reasons I came to Cynet. So with that, we can go into the first topic, which is the key components to a more simplified cybersecurity strategy. Now, apologies, because I know every vendor, they always start with challenges, right? What cybersecurity challenges are. But it's really relevant to talk about the complexity as well here. And this does lead on to when we talk about what we're seeing, what we're hearing from customers. Now, if you look in an ideal world, right, we've got all of these tools in our environment, and we've got the people and process around them as well. We've got a 24/7 SOC, we've got incident response backing that up, a good incident response plan, we've got capability to be able to threat hunt using ILCs, we've got good handling, alert handling, and the ability to investigate. All of that is great, and that's the ideal world. But obviously, in reality, the constraints that come with that are, you need the staff to back that up, right? You need the skill sets, you need time. With those skill sets, it still takes time to, if an incident does happen, what's the root cause? What's the impact? And having the skill sets to do that, and if you're using multiple product sets and multiple tools, skipping between consoles, that can take time. And everybody's got budget issues, right? And the challenges that come from that, I'm sure a lot of you on here have heard of these challenges and have some of these challenges today. You go out, you buy a product to address a specific threat, because obviously threats are evolving all the time, but it might only partially cover that particular threat. There's other areas in which attackers can target an organization. I'm going to go into that in more detail. There's the 24/7 monitoring and response. There's, if there's having the ability to monitor your environment 24/7. There's the imprecise threat detection. There's false positives. There's having multiple products brings the tool complexity. And that's what I want to talk about in a little bit more detail. And obviously from these challenges, there's the impact. We're exposed to breaches. The damage is often done before it's actually discovered. I did a webinar recently on ransomware and the impact, where I think a lot of people treat ransomware as a malware problem rather than a visibility problem. The ransomware, didn't just drop into the environment, by accident. There was a whole attack life cycle before that happened. So the damage is often done way before the ransomware is run. So obviously the key components to a good cybersecurity strategy is the old people, process, and technology, right? I think what a lot of organizations have done is they've gone out and bought great technology from vendors, but they haven't really, a lot of them I'm talking to, and a lot of the people Cynet, a lot of the organizations Cynet are trying to help, is those organizations that may have the tech, but they don't have the people and the process to back it up. And that's often the challenge. So that, they've got alert fatigue, they've got too many point products, and not enough correlation and integration in place. And then to top all of that off as well, when we look at our infrastructure these days, I remember back in the day when I started in IT, it was really easy because we had this top left corner here. We had the ability to just put a nice red perimeter around our core network, put our IPSs in place, our web filters, maybe a bit of email filtering, and we were secure, and maybe we'd have some AV at the end point. But everybody's moving to this hybrid infrastructure. some people are going pure cloud, but the majority I'm talking to, they've got a hybrid of this. They're spinning up AWS instances, they're using AWS cloud services, they've still got some physical in place, which might still be the core network. It might have some legacy applications that they can't move up to the cloud. You've got Azure, and then you've got still your virtual environments as well. And then when you think about trying to wrap security around this and gaining visibility of everything that's going on, it becomes very complicated and very difficult to do, especially if you don't have the right amount of people and those right skill sets. So again, it comes back to people, process, and technology. And then obviously, as we advance in technology, threats are also progressing and advancing. It's a game of cat and mouse. We create a piece of technology that detects certain types of threats, but then we see new threats being used. And the challenge is that we have these lol-bin attacks now. This, for those of you that haven't heard of this technique, we call them living off the land techniques. Basically, there's no binary involved, there's no executable involved. It's all done using legitimate tools within the environment. And this is what I talked about before, whereby ransomware is often the last piece of the attack. If we're going to talk about ransomware, all of this stuff is done fileless before the actual ransomware is ran. So PowerShell, Office macros, very, very common in the environment. Scheduled tasks, we see that all the time at Cynet because we get involved in a lot of incident response. Scheduled tasks being created to maintain persistency and then create a reverse shell. It's very, very difficult to gain visibility into it. So over the years, there's been lots of solutions. Some of these solutions I've worked with, they do a great job. But the problem is if as attacks evolve, the more and more attacks we see, we have to keep buying these point products, right? And then it comes down to, well, do you have the people and do you have the process to manage these point products? So NTA, a great product, Network Threat Analytics, a great product for identifying threats that are moving laterally across the network. No agent required, great for lateral movement type attacks. But with an NTA solution, some of them lack remediation. You often have to go and buy another product to have that remediation. There's the operational aspect. If you go back to that hybrid infrastructure I talked about before, you'd have to have multiple appliances running in these different environments. So from an operational perspective, it becomes very expensive. And can you really deploy a solution like this across all of those environments? We've seen it's been around for 10 years now, right? And it's a great product. Again, I know I keep banging on about people and process, but if there's one product that really does require people and process, it's a SIEM product. You can hook it up to your firewalls, your routers, your switches, and it can feed all those logs into it. But without the right correlation rules in place, without the right incident response plan, without the right people to manage it, it becomes very difficult and a solution that can overwhelm you from an alert perspective. It obviously has its strengths, it obviously has its weaknesses as well, which I just mentioned there. We hear a lot about SOAR technology today, the ability to now automate, trying to address the issue that SIEM introduced, because SIEM gives all of that visibility, but then we hear about well, what happens when we do get an alert within SIEM? We've seen it on the firewall, we've seen it on the endpoint. What do we do? So obviously SOAR is a great piece of technology that can help automate that. It can help streamline your incident response. On the flip side of that, there's the complexity, there's the making sure that SOAR connects to everything, it integrates with everything. There's the deployment timeframes. It's all around that time to value as well, right? Obviously, around, for the last 5 years, an evolution of next-gen AV. So obviously, next-gen antivirus was developed to identify that zero-day malware using machine learning. EDR came about to identify behaviors on the endpoint and detect and respond in a lot more efficient manner. And EDR has been around for a long time. It's a great solution. It has a lot of strengths, but it also, again, it has its weaknesses. You know, you still have to have those skill sets to understand what you're seeing within the alerts. You still have to investigate from it. You know, there's no SIEM. If you haven't got a SIEM, or if you haven't got a SOAR or deception, for example, there's weaknesses to every one of these point products. They all address a certain attack scenario, but when you think about deploying all of these solutions in one place, it can become very difficult to manage. Obviously, antivirus has been around since day one. You know, everybody used to just have AV, that was enough. And as I said a second ago, next-gen antivirus came along, machine learning, did a great job at detecting those 0 days, rather than having to know about the threat. But we've seen, you know, with machine learning, you can get a high amount of false positives. You know, antivirus needs to know of the threat. As we know, we need a signature for it. With AV, we see high resources at the endpoint. And then most recently, we've heard obviously a big surge in UEBA, user entity behavior analytics, and network detection and response. These are, you know, another point product that you might be looking at, and a lot of organizations go out. Very effective at detecting anomalies on the network. So when a user is doing something outside of the norm, and again, they've been developed for a specific use case, for a specific attack type. You know, it's new tech, it's cutting edge, it uses AI, it's a really interesting technology. But again, as I said with the previous slides, there's weaknesses that with this as well. You know, what we see is high false positive rates, requires lots of resources, because most of the UEBA tools out there are passive, and they're going to tell you that you've got a problem, but you've still got to remediate and go and fix it. So hopefully here you've seen kind of where I'm getting at around the complexity. We've got lots of options out there that we can go and buy. There's lots of point products we can go and buy and try and address the issue or a particular attack type. But without people, skill sets, process, it's going to be very, very difficult to have all of this integrated, talking to each other and to manage. So this leads me on to solving that complexity. And as we love in the vendor land, we love a buzzword. So most recently, the newest term in the industry is XDR. And what it really stands for is extended detection and response. So essentially, what we're trying to do at Cynet, and what we did at Cynet, is we've built a platform from the ground up, natively built. It's all our own code. We haven't acquired additional technology. And we're trying to, first of all, resolve these complexity issues. So we've got, as you see on the right-hand side here, the first thing we do, we're taking multiple telemetry types natively built in and integrated. So we're taking telemetry from the endpoint around users, around network. We're using deception technology as well. So essentially, we're able to collect all of this information from the endpoint, from the network, about network activity, user activity, endpoint activity. We're able to correlate all of this, run AI against it, and having it all in a single platform makes it a lot easier to integrate together. It also includes SIEM features to integrate and correlate signals from the network as well. So rather than have multiple point products and then acquire a SIEM and then take feeds from all of these products and then try and build processes and manage all of that, we built the SIEM functionality into the XDR, into the Cynet XDR platform as well. And to deal with the response side of security, what I was alluding to before, some of those solutions can be very passive. They will tell you when something bad has happened. So what we've also done is built an element of SOAR functionality into the product. So when we find something in our XDR platform, whether it's across the endpoint, whether it's to do with a user or a network type of attack, we can easily automate the response and remediate against the attack. Now, the benefit of this and how we address the complexity is it's all done with a single, in a single console. So Cynet is fully multi-tenanted solution, SaaS-based product. So we stand up the infrastructure for you, we manage it. We do all the updates automatically. There's no implementation conflicts whatsoever with existing antivirus vendors or anything like that. All of the hot fixes, service packs are managed by us. What we also do, and this is one of the key elements of our XDR platform, is we manage what we call the global configuration for you. So there's no, if we go back to those products I just mentioned there, there's no learning aspect of our products. You don't have to put it in and it doesn't have to learn the environment for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We have done all of that up front. We have our own machine model sets. We've done our own AI. We maintain and manage the global configuration. And so as it says here, it eliminates that learning curve that's required by some of the other newer technology like UEBA products, for example. So how we're dealing with complexity is to have a single platform with a single agent that is also able to consume logs from the network like a SIEM solution and integrate with your cloud applications as well to identify misconfigurations in them. And then obviously to help with those skill sets and lack of people that you may have and resources, we've automated it. So we're not just telling you there's a problem, we're automating the response side of it as well. So hopefully that makes sense on the first topic that I wanted to discuss. Hopefully you can see the benefits of XDR and how it can address complexity around security. But the next topic I wanted to touch on was how you can stay ahead of cyber attacks without straining your IT team. So as I've mentioned, most of the organizations we are talking to is we're obviously trying to talk to the organizations that if you look at the maturity curve of a lot of organizations, they may have a big infrastructure, but from a security perspective, security posture, they may be quite low on that curve. And therefore, they've got a lot of tools, but it's still straining their IT department because they don't have it segregated, where they don't have a SecOps team, and they've not got the luxury of dedicated security staff. They're doing everything, right? They're doing desktop, server, network support, and security is something that they've got to do as well. So how do we stay on top of it? So the option is to look at 24/7 monitoring, and there's two choices in which in what you can do. More traditionally, over the last couple of years, what you can do is build your own team, where you build your own SOC, you acquire your own SIEM, and that can be costly, obviously. It requires people to manage it, it requires skill sets. And what we say is a minimum of 6 trained analysts, if you think about holidays and emergencies, etc. And then, but you also have to acquire the appropriate tooling as well. So it's all good and well having a SIEM and having a SOC and having the people, but you need the right tooling to be able to run forensics and gain that visibility and also implement that remediation as well. So the second choice is outsource to an MDR, Managed Detection and Response Service. This can help you scale a lot quicker. You can, rather than buy and have people that are highly skilled, you can utilize the people in the Managed Detection and Response Service. It will often come with its own tooling, and you can leverage the technology that's part of the Managed Detection and Response Service. So what we do at Cynet to address this and to help you stay ahead of your strained IT resources is we offer a 24/7 Managed Detection and Response Service with the solution. And the benefits are, first of all, you might not even have a security team. So first of all, you can leverage Cynet, and we can become an extension of your IT team and be your security team. All of our SOC analysts, they're all offensive security people. They're all cybersecurity experts. They're all on the offensive side of security, where I've always been on the defensive side. These guys are what I call the Jedi kind of cybersecurity techies that really know how to exploit vulnerabilities, and they can really help you when an incident happens within your environment. We're obviously, with the MDR, we're leveraging insight into hundreds of other global clients that we have as well. And it's included at no extra cost. It's included as part of the XDR platform that you get from Cynet. So you can think of it as this wraparound service that you get from Cynet that extends your limited IT resources. So from a detection perspective, it can help to continue. We'll be continually monitoring your environment to validate and optimize detections that we're seeing. We will do proactive threat hunting. So the tool itself, you can threat hunt within Cynet, but if you're a team, again, that's low on resources and don't have the resources, you've probably not got the time to be looking at alerts and doing threat hunting. Our 24/7 managed detection and response service will proactively threat hunt. So if we see a new threat, a new piece of ransomware we've detected within one of our clients, we can very easily search across all of our customers using the IOCs we've gained and identified to see whether it exists anywhere else. There's also the investigation side. So the main goal of Cynet is to automate and to become autonomous and to run in your environment. But with every tool and with every product, there always has to be a manual element to it, and our SOC will help with investigations and validate attacks that we're seeing within Cynet, and we can also provide updated IOCs. And then there's the response side of it as well. So as I mentioned, we're consolidating with XDR. We've got automation built in. We're providing all of that automation by built-in remediation scripts that will run, and we can integrate with your existing infrastructure as well. But if you do need assistance in incident response, our SOC team are there to provide remote assistance to you, but also to generate detailed attack reports if you need them, and you need to present them somewhere else. So here's an example of how easy it is to request assistance within the Cynet UI. You can literally click on analysis and send a specific alert to the SOC. You'll get then a threat analysis report with an exec summary and recommendations, including IOCs. So we'll provide assistance to fully eradicate the threat with the remediation instructions if Cynet didn't remediate in the first place. And if there's any fine tuning needed, etc., then the SOC will obviously recommend this as well. So Cynet, just to summarize, it's meant to be a hands-off tool because we are XDR, but we call ourselves an autonomous breach protection solution. But it can be customized, and there's fine-tuning that you can do into it as well to monitor for specific things. These are things that the SOC might recommend to you. So that concludes that topic on how. So yeah, just to finish off on how you can stay ahead of the game, and if you are low on resources in IT, that's how you can extend your security by leveraging the Cynet managed detection and response services, which comes part of the solution. But I wanted to talk now about automation and how to improve threat prevention and accelerate the time to response. When I talk to customers day in, day out still, I'm talking to customers, when I ask them what are the main challenges you have today, for me this is number one. They often have maybe an AV solution, maybe an EDR solution. They'll often maybe have even a UEBA solution, but the challenge and the issues I hear about a lot is we know we've got problems, The challenge we have is responding to them and automating the response side of security. We don't have the skill sets and we don't have the people. And even though we've got good tooling in place that may block it, they struggle to understand what the actual impact is and what the root cause is. So these are the current kind of issues I hear from customers around time to response. Because if you've got a good tool system in place or a good security system in place, it might be good at detecting, but what's it like at helping you investigate the full root cause and impact? So you know 100% that, well, we saw it detect over here, but we know it's been completely remediated, and we know how it got into the organization, and we know what the extent of the impact is, so we can report it back. So often, from a detection perspective, this is lengthy for a lot of organizations. It often involves a lot of manual data gathering, which is time consuming. It goes back to the business challenges we're trying to address around resources, skill sets. Response, if you've got multiple point products, it's one of the reasons I like to go through those products which have been introduced to address advanced attacks. If you have got all of them, then when you're doing your response, you're having to go by device to manually remediate and make sure remediation actions are in place manually to mitigate the attack. And then the oversight is, well, and this is where I was alluding to, is, well, what was the root cause and what was the impact? So even if you've got the detection in place and you've gone through each of your solutions and you've seen that it did block it, what have we missed and what's the root cause and what's the impact? And so often you'll have to pay the experts a lot of money to come in and do some deep dive forensics on all the machines to see if the threat has fully been resolved. So with Cynet, what we're doing is, obviously, as I mentioned before, from a detection perspective, we provide immediate visibility by combining all of this technology into a single platform. So rather than this lengthy manual data gathering process that we hear from customers, having all of this technology running on a single platform and enabled means all the telemetry data is in one place, and it's very, very easy to detect. And then it leads on to the response side of it, automating the response by remediating automatically when we see something with combining this technology here. So we, out of the box, will come with built-in remediation rules that, for example, if it's a PowerShell malicious process command, we will identify that and kill PowerShell from running that command automatically. What we will do then, and which I want to talk to in a little bit more detail, is we will do a full, what we call a full autonomous investigation. So rather than you having to then see the alert, go into Cynet, and then do some threat hunting and do some investigations, we do that automatically within the tool. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. And then how do we address those oversights? Well, we have, as I mentioned before, we have the 24/7 proactive monitoring that comes with the SOC, and they will provide that expert guidance. So this is how, you know, we envision and how we try and speed up the time to response should you have an incident within your environment. It's about combining multiple technologies, automating the response, and then having the experts, which will become an extension to your IT team to help you with the oversights. So a little bit of a screenshot from the solution here. I should say as well, always happy to give full deep dive technical demos. Gerdit will mention this later on once we finish the presentation. But what we do to speed the time to response and automate the response side of security is we have what we call an autonomous investigation, as you see here. We call it our incident view. So in this particular incident, we saw an interpreter PowerShell session, which is a reverse shell to the attacker's domain. The time to resolution was just over 5 minutes. Now, realistically, when an incident happens in your environment, how can you realistically, how quickly can you say that the threat from detection to remediation to full root cause and impact has been done within 5 minutes? It's very, very difficult. It depends on the type of attack. In some cases, obviously, yes, you can do it. What we've done here is we've seen an interpreter PowerShell detection within Cynet. We've then give the description. So, you know, we're saying here, well, we saw a PowerShell executed an interpreter payload that enables attackers to remotely execute code, and maybe more text to see, you know, how the code has been run within the environment. And so you should be able to expand on this in here as well and see more detail. The scope was, we saw this actually affect 12 hosts. The root cause was, it was distributed through a scheduled task, and we remediated by deleting the scheduled task and isolating the initial host off the network. No further action required from you as the customer. And to summarize, we did 6 different investigation steps, and we took 3 remediation actions, all automated, all autonomous. So what you see here is the dark blue boxes are the actual investigations. So we've said, right, get the process results, and then you can click on each of these when you're in the console, and it gives you the investigation that we've done, and then you click the light blue and it gives you the results. But essentially, hopefully you get the idea that we're not just telling you when we've detected something and blocked it, we're taking it one step further. And because of the way we collect telemetry data from the endpoint, from the network, from your cloud apps, we store it in our central forensics database. We can do this autonomous investigation when we see specific attacks happen within the environment. And this is how we speed up the time to response and automate your response to security. So, next topic, how to consolidate multiple security solutions while automating and simplifying the process. So I've alluded to this probably a lot now throughout the presentation. I think you kind of get the point that how you do this is by adopting an XDR platform, and that's what Cynet has built. Now, as I mentioned before, I will give you a little bit of background and just tell you a little bit about Cynet later on. But we built this platform to be an XDR platform. We've not acquired any other technology. We've not integrated it with any other technology. All of it has been built natively from the ground up. And essentially, how does the product look and how do we consolidate? Well, if you look at kind of like this Colosseum picture here, we've got these slices here. So at the bottom, we have obviously our agent, which can be deployed across Windows, Linux, and Mac. You can deploy it across any infrastructure. So that's how we address those hybrid infrastructures. So you can deploy it into cloud. So AWS, Azure and AWS instances, physical, virtual, we don't care. As long as it's a supported operating system, you get it deployed across everything. The agent deploys in a number of seconds. It then connects back to the SaaS infrastructure, downloads the global config, you enable your policy, all of this XDR technology, and it's up and running. No training required whatsoever. When we say sources, this is because we can take feeds, obviously, and feed into the data lake from the network as well. So we can integrate with your firewalls, your Active Directory, and feed those logs into the data lake as well. Now, because we are an XDR solution, as I said before, extended detection and response, we've got all of this capability built into a single platform. You've got all of the endpoint security, all of the threat prevention, all of the advanced threat detection stuff. So when I went through those point products before, when I was talking about the complexity of security, some of those use cases where you go and buy those point products come under the advanced threat detection. So UEBA that I mentioned before, We have deception technology within Cynet as well. The ability to identify anomalies within the environment. And then there's the security and IT operational aspect of Cynet. We will introduce and give you an element of vulnerability management. We will highlight to you where there are potentially vulnerable assets within your environment. SSPM stands for SaaS Security Posture Management. So Cynet integrates into your cloud apps, as I mentioned before, so you can identify misconfigurations within Office 365, within Zoom, for example, as well. So you roll out your agents, you ingest your feeds from the network, it all comes into a data lake, we run AI, we correlate everything, we present it back to you in a nice presentable format, we enable our extended detection and response, which can run, which can just be enabled at the flick of a switch. On top of that, we automate all of this, as I've mentioned before. We can automatically detect, remediate, and investigate. And then on top of this, we have the 24/7 managed detection and response, which I covered before and have gone through, obviously, in a lot of detail. So this is really how we address complexity around security. It's about simplifying it, having a single platform, and then having automation and having a 24/7 managed detection and response service around it. So how it works, I've kind of already touched on this. To gain visibility, we deploy the agent and we take the feeds from the network like a SIEM product would, and we start to monitor this telemetry data across the endpoints and the network, and we're monitoring user, file, host activity. It all gets correlated into the data lake layer to add more context, and then we can automate the response and identify the root cause, the scope, and remediate for you. So it's immediate time to value with Cynet. It's simple to use, very fast at deployment. As I said, if we're talking about Windows, if you install the MSI using a software distribution tool, it installs in seconds and it calls back in to the SaaS infrastructure. And as I've said, it's a single intuitive interface with which you can do you have all of this capability in one place. So, cybersecurity made easier. It's XDR, it's extended detection and response, it's automation, it's continuous monitoring, very easy to use, fast to deploy. We address those constraints that I mentioned at the beginning around staff skill sets, time and budget. We meet all the challenges that come from those constraints. And the positive impact is we stop the threats, we minimize the impact, and we enhance and become more effective for you as a security and an IT security team. So last slide from me. I'm conscious, obviously, I've gone through quite a few slides there. So before I hand back over to Gerdit, just a little bit about Cynet, where we're from. We're an Israeli based out of Tel Aviv. We've been around about 7 years now. We've been in the UK for about 2 years, I should say across EMEA for about 2 years. We've absolutely took to market really well. We've got hundreds of customers. We're fully aligned with the MITRE framework. I think it's the go-to framework now when you're assessing your security posture. So fully aligned with that. We scored really well in the last round of funding. Sorry, I should say the last round of evaluations. We've just done the second round of evaluations for 2021, and the results are very promising, and they should be getting released in March. And we've obviously got the market recognition as well. So before I do hand over to you, you should now see a poll on your screens. It should only take a couple of minutes. I think there's around 8 questions in total. So yeah, I would really appreciate it if you could just very quickly answer those questions. And yeah, it should only take a couple of minutes.
Excellent. Thank you, Anthony. Very good presentation, very eloquently put across. And yeah, hopefully the audience can see the value that Cynet can bring to the table for them and help simplify their lives. And everybody likes an easier life. And I'm certain that yeah, they can definitely experience that with Cynet. So we'll just wait another couple of seconds or so just for the poll to complete. Just wanted to pick up on some Q&A and some questions that have come through. So whilst the poll is being completed, we can maybe touch on a few questions. Here we go. The $1 million question looks amazing. What do the financials look like? They look great, actually. We would have to evaluate, obviously, the environment of your particular environment. What another one of the questions is, how is this licensed? Well, maybe Anthony, do you want to cover off the licensing aspect of it?
Yeah. In regards to that first question, obviously I'm a techie, so I'm not. I can't really answer that. But from a licensing perspective, it's licensed off endpoints. I guess there's a few aspects actually. So originally, before we started to go into the SIEM kind of space as well, and we're ingesting the logs from the network, we're mainly licensed from the amount of endpoints you're running across the environment. So it's as simple as that, really. But if you want to use our partial SIEM capability and ingest logs from the network as well, from your firewalls, then that's based on a consumption model, on a daily consumption model.
Excellent. Good stuff. Another question that's come through is will there be support for Chromebooks?
I believe it's on the roadmap, but I can't give you an exact time and a date, because that is something we do get quite a bit at the moment around Chromebooks and mobile device support.
Excellent. What else is there here? Another question. Okay. Apparently the poll disappeared before it was completed. Don't know if the poll can be reissued. Marketing, maybe. Okay. Another question that's come through. How easy is it to deploy?
It's really simple, because as I said before, we obviously, because we're a SaaS-based solution, we'll stand up all the back end. So all the components required to run our XDR platform, it's all automated, and I can create a brand new tenant within a couple of minutes. It's quicker than that even. The kind of caveats to deployment is how quickly can you push out the endpoint agent, the agent. So most organizations have software distribution tools. So as soon as I set up the tenant, you can log in, you can download the install packages, put them in your software distribution tool and push it out, and it's deployed. So it really depends on how quickly you can do that and roll it out to all of your endpoints.
Excellent, thank you. Another question that's come through is the management console cloud-based?
Yes, yeah. No, we're a SaaS-based solution, so yeah, 100%.
Excellent. Any other questions coming through? No, I think that's all the questions. If anybody has got another question that they want to ask or pose, then please do so whilst we sort of close out the session and summarize. No, it's still no. Okay, no other questions. So okay, so I guess the key takeaways from our perspective for the audience is really to for you guys to ask yourselves the question, if are you experiencing some of the complexities that we've discussed today on the session. If you are, then clearly this is a solution that may be able to help with that complexity. One of the biggest issues that I hear from our customers is finding the right skills within the marketplace. There's certainly a shortage of skills, and the skills that are available can become quite expensive and prohibitive from a cost perspective for our customers. And then if you do acquire the skills, those skills and holding on to those skills becomes an issue because they're in such demand. So again, benefiting from a managed service and having somebody monitor your environment is of great benefit, great value. So yeah, key takeaways: if you are experiencing those issues and you would like to explore the Cynet offering further, then we'd be delighted to take you through that on a more one-on-one basis. I guess that just leaves me to really thank everybody for taking the time to join us on the session today. We do understand your time is very valuable, and there's lots of people vying for that time. As we had alluded in the invitations, you will receive a Just Eat voucher as a thank you from us for taking the time to attend today. That can take up to 3 or 4 days for it to arrive with you, but we will make sure that we contact you to ensure that you have got the voucher. The other thing we'll do is send a recording of this session out. So if you want to use it as a playback for management teams, etc., or discuss internally, it's always very useful. And we'll be in touch to gain some feedback. And if anybody is interested in contacting us, then my details are on the screen there. Please feel free to either call me or drop me a line, and we'd be delighted to show off the platform on a more personal one-to-one basis, where you can see a proper demonstration of the technology stack, possibly even go through to a proof of value if it's appealing. Yeah, we can go from there. But again, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it, and we look forward to hosting you again. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.